Snow fell like silent ash over the Montana mountains, coating the world in white stillness. The wind howled through the pines, carrying with it the sound of something mechanical, distant thunder rolling closer. 15 bikes, their headlights cutting through the blizzard, fought their way down a narrow road that was barely visible under the storm. The riders, wrapped in leather and frost, were men of the Road Reapers MC, a brotherhood known more for their scars than their smiles. They weren't looking for trouble that night, they were looking for shelter. At the front rode their president, Cole Hawk Jennings, a man whose eyes had seen too much war before he ever wore a patch. His beard was iced over, his breath fogged the visor, and his fuel gauge blinked empty. Behind him, his brothers followed like loyal shadows, their bikes growling weaker with every mile. The storm was eating them alive. Then, through the blur of snow, Hawk spotted a dim yellow glow, a farmhouse, small and alone, standing against the storm like it had something to prove. He motioned to the others and they pulled up in the driveway, engines rumbling in the dark. The sound shattered the quiet night. The front porch light flicked on and the door creaked open. An old woman stepped out, wrapped in a shawl, her face lit by the porch light. She looked fragile, yet there was something unshaken about her. Her name was Martha. She lived alone since her husband passed. 30 winters had come and gone since then. The world had forgotten her, but she never forgot how to care. When Hawk approached, pulling off his helmet, she didn't flinch. "Ma'am," he said, voice rough from the cold, "we don't mean no harm. We're caught in the snow and we just need somewhere to stay till it clears." Martha looked at the line of frost-covered men, at their patches, the skull and wings emblem of the Road Reapers. Most people would have slammed the door, but she saw something else. Maybe it was the exhaustion in their eyes, or the way one of them leaned heavy on his bike, shaking from the cold. "Well," she said finally, "you boys look half dead out there. Bring your things in before you freeze to death." Inside, the farmhouse smelled like cinnamon and firewood. The heat from the fireplace hit them like mercy itself. The bikers removed their jackets, boots, and gloves, steam rising off them as the snow melted away. Martha poured coffee, handed out blankets, and fussed over them like they were her grandsons. At first, the men were awkward, 15, rough bikers sitting around, a floral rug while a tiny old woman baked cornbread. But something about that night softened the edges. Hawk helped bring in firewood. One of the younger riders, Diesel, fixed her old radio. Another, named Patch, repaired a broken step on her porch. Martha listened to their laughter, the kind that only comes from men who've seen darkness and survived it. She asked about their lives and they told her pieces, jail time, lost brothers, hard roads. She didn't judge. She listened. When she mentioned her late husband, a Korean War vet who used to ride too, the room fell quiet. Hawk nodded respectfully. "Then he'd understand," he said softly. That night the storm raged harder, but inside there was peace. Martha made them stew from what little she had. And when she caught one of them slipping a 20 into her sugar jar, she pretended not to notice. The next morning the world was white and still. The bikers stepped outside, their boots crunching in fresh snow. Their bikes were half buried, but the sky had cleared. Before leaving, Hawk handed Martha a folded $100 bill. "For the trouble," he said. She shook her head. "You boys brought laughter back into this house. That's worth more than money." Hawk smiled, tucked the bill under her cookie jar instead, and said, "You ever need anything? You call this number." He scribbled a phone number on a napkin with their club name underneath. "We take care of our own." She laughed softly. "And I suppose I'm one of yours now?" "Yeah," Hawk said. "You are." They roared off down the road, leaving tire tracks like signatures in the snow. Martha watched until the sound faded into the mountains. She didn't know if she'd ever see them again, but she felt safer than she had in years. 3 days later, trouble came. A white pickup truck pulled into her driveway, carrying 2 men from town, brothers who'd always thought they could get away with anything. They'd been drinking. One had a shotgun in his hand. Martha had once refused to sell them her land after their father's offer to buy it for pennies. Now they were back, loud and angry, demanding she sign the papers. When she refused, one of them shoved her to the ground. The other laughed. "Lady, nobody's gonna miss you out here," he said. Martha tried to crawl away, reaching for her phone, but the man kicked it aside. The storm had left the roads empty, no one around for miles. She prayed quietly, not for herself, but for her husband to forgive her for being afraid. Then she remembered the napkin, the number. Her trembling hands reached into her apron and dialed. A voice answered. "Road Reapers." She whispered, "This is Martha." That's all it took. An hour later, the men in the pickup heard a sound. A distant rumble. They looked up, confused. The noise grew louder, like thunder rolling from every direction. The ground began to tremble. Over the ridge came bikes. Dozens of them. Black leather, chrome shining under the cold sun. Not 15 this time, 100. The Road Reapers had returned, every chapter within 2 states. Hawk rode at the front, his eyes burning cold. He saw Martha on the porch, blood on her lip, fear in her eyes. Behind her stood the 2 men, frozen in disbelief as the bikes surrounded them. The engines cut off one by one, leaving only silence and the weight of 100 stares. Hawk stepped forward. "Martha, you all right?" She nodded weakly. "They hurt me, Hawk. They wanted my land." Hawk turned to the men. "You touch her again, you don't walk away." His voice was low, steady, more dangerous than shouting. The men tried to talk, but Hawk's brothers moved in. One of them took the shotgun, another dumped it into the snow. The 2 were dragged to their knees. Hawk didn't hit them. He didn't have to. His presence alone was enough to make them tremble. He leaned close. "You see this woman? She fed 15 of my brothers when we were freezing to death. She gave us warmth, food, and kindness when no one else would. That makes her family. You mess with family and the road will remember your name." The sheriff came not long after, called by one of the local reapers. The 2 men were arrested for assault and trespassing. Martha didn't press charges for herself. But Hawk made sure their reputation was ruined in town. Word spreads fast when 100 bikers line up outside a farmhouse. That night, the Road Reapers stayed again, not because of the storm this time, but to make sure Martha wasn't alone. They fixed her broken fence, replaced her porch light, filled her woodpile to the brim. When it was time to go, Hawk left behind something else, a small silver patch with wings and a skull. "You earned it," he said. "You're one of us now." Martha smiled through tears. "I never thought angels would ride Harleys." Hawk grinned. "These ones do." Weeks passed. The snow melted and the road opened again. But the story of that night spread far beyond the small Montana town. Locals who once crossed the street when bikers rode by began waving instead. Some even left food on Martha's porch as a thank you for the kindness that had brought a whole brotherhood to her door. Every year after that, when the first snow fell, the roar of engines would echo through the valley. The Road Reapers would ride up to that same farmhouse, not for shelter, but for supper. Martha would be waiting at the door, coffee brewing, laughter ready. And every Christmas, 100 bikes lined up in the snow, not out of duty but love. Because sometimes, family isn't born. It's found on the road in the storm, or in the kindness of one woman who opened her door to strangers and found brothers instead. If you believe bikers can be heroes too, share this story.